Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. We're at the end of, usually Friday's the end of your week. Tomorrow's a holiday. Independence Day, 4th of July. Hope everyone has a great one. I know I plan to. So this is kind of like the end of your busy part of your week if you're still busy this week and didn't take the whole week off vacation. And if you are tuning in, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, thank you for being here. We've had mostly a week of early segments. Today's no different. There's always something to talk about, keeping you excited, making you excited, looking ahead, looking forward to Arkansas Razorbacks men's basketball. The season obviously is a few months out, but we've got plenty to talk about, especially recruiting and some other things going on that matter to you. They matter to me, and that's why we do this daily and talk about it. So thanks again for joining me. I am Kevin McPherson, your host. This is HogvilleNET YouTube Live, as you know. Arkansas has had a presence in Switzerland going back to the weekend, evaluating talent, making it understood that Arkansas prioritizes not only the future in recruiting, but potentially prospects. Jessica Davis, good morning, Kevin. Good morning. There was some extra part of that comment. It faded off before I could read it, but thank you, Jessica, and good morning. This is a thing where when you look at recruiting right now, it's easy to assume Arkansas is looking ahead in class of 2026 and beyond, future rosters, but they still have that 15th and final roster spot open. We'll see if they stay in-house with Aiden Kelly and just go ahead and have him as a walk-on for a second consecutive season, or if he kind of remains in the team manager role or one of the team managers as you look to actually fill that spot. And part of what Arkansas assistant coach Chuck Martin's doing is evaluating players, not only looking ahead to future rosters, but potentially to fill that spot now or soon and getting to see some international players. The four Team USA players in the class of 2026 that Martin's there to see, has been talk of potential of one or two of those players maybe reclassifying to 2025. And so there's more than one way to do it. It's not to say that Arkansas absolutely will use this opportunity or other opportunities that are upcoming to add someone for the next roster, but they certainly could. And so we've been going through some new names that you probably haven't heard, several international players, and then given the daily updates on the Team USA guys that Arkansas is pursuing as they remain priority recruiting targets. But we've got 5 new names today that we haven't mentioned in the previous segments. I told you throughout the FIBA U19 World Cup that's going on in Switzerland that I would just drop several of these prospects that intrigue me in terms of they're good enough. Many of these would be slated as 2025. So as soon as next season could be on your roster. In Arkansas's case, again, it could fill the 15th and final spot. And I think the quality of the players I've identified that I've asked about with some of my international player sources are the ones that make sense, whether it's positionally at the 4 spot for much needed depth there behind Trevor Brazile, whether it's some kind of perimeter shooting or some combination of a versatile player that could plug and play and bump you from a true 8 to a true 9-man, 2 deep rotation. What Arkansas had last year. It's not to say that they'll get there again with that kind of playable depth and quality, but I've identified several of these international guys that would fit the bill, and some of them are worth talking about even if they push out to 2026 or even later in some cases, because there's a lot of future NBA players in this event, not just for that play for Team USA, but some of these international guys. So we had a lot of multiple games throughout the event yesterday, Wednesday, and so I had mentioned before that Chuck Martin, Arkansas's assistant coach, would at minimum be in Switzerland for most of the week for the game action. Today's an off day, in that he might come back, here later in the week. And again, this being the off day would be a travel day. And that depended upon if he got accomplished what he wanted to get accomplished in terms of this evaluation opportunity. The other possibility was he could make a decision to stay longer. Well, I can confirm that Martin is headed back to the U.S., to Fayetteville, to Arkansas. And so that tells me that he got done what he needed to get done, and then we'll see where this leads. We've gone through several names. I'll give an update on a couple of those, but again, 5 new names today, and then we're going to get through some of what the Team USA guys also did yesterday in action. Team USA continues to roll now 4-0 with just a monster 140-67 win over Jordan. That's nearly an 80-point win, 77-point victory, or excuse me, 73-point victory. So, you're these remind me of the old Nolan Richardson game scores back in the day when Arkansas would feast on a cupcake in non-conference play. Though sometimes the scores look like that, and this happens a lot in this international stuff. Even though there's really good players internationally, some of these matchups are just lopsided. So we'll go through the Team USA guys first today. I think we saved them for the last time we were on. To me, this guy, top 3, top 5, certainly rated 5-star guard, 6'2", Jordan Smith Jr. Out of Virginia, has started, and he's a class of 2026 players. 2/3 of the roster is made up of older players, either entering college, their freshman season in college. Here, once they get finished with this event and get back to the States, they'll be on campus just like guys like Darius Acuff Jr., Malik Thomas, and Isaiah Seeley, who are freshmen. So it's made up mostly of those guys, but the 4 2026 guys who will be high school seniors, Jordan Smith Jr. has been the lone starter out of that group, and has been a key force behind Team USA's 4-0 run. But 13 minutes yesterday in this blowout win, 13 points. That's his high watermark scoring individually. It hasn't been about his points, but everything else and his contributions defensively. And at both ends is just being a glue guy and a connector, just a high-level guy, an intense defender, an elite defender. Going to be a special player at each level, I think, as he continues to progress through his career. But 13 points on 6 of 8 field goal shooting. He had 3 steals, 2 rebounds, and 1 assist in this win. And I've kind of saved – I mention him simply because – he's the guy that has said that had a very specific timeline and a very specific intention to visit Arkansas. He says after Nike Peach Jam, which is later this month, and by the end of the month, that concludes. We'll see how long his team is still in that and when that ends and how soon he might visit. Does he push it out to the fall to come to campus when Arkansas's got everybody back in school and got fans in the house for a football game, a home football game, something like that? Could it be sooner than that? You just never know. We started with him, but the headliner in the class of 2026 in this game was the number 1 player in that class, the best 5-star of all the 5 stars, according to all the recruiting services. It makes sense. 6'7" combo guard, wing. I mean, I've said it before, the positional versatility is through the roof. The guy can play the 1, the 2, the 3, can help defend the 4 at times. And I think that will translate as he moves up to the high major college level. But he's also expressed an intention to visit Arkansas. Tyron Stokes, 6'7", again, out of Louisville. He's been playing on the left coast the last few years in high school. But a triple-double yesterday in this blowout, and the most minutes he's been able to play, 24 minutes, 19 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists in those 19 minutes. And Tyron Stokes is a guy I always said, even covering him on the Nike EYBL, two spring and summers ago, and then this most recent Nike EYBL session that I got to see him in person in Memphis, back in May. Guy's a triple-double machine. Now he's just conveyed that, carried that with him overseas across the big pond, and showing off in Europe now. Really got some good run in a win like this, and got a triple-double. Caleb Holt, who's now out of 4 games, the last 3 of those, he has scored in double figures. And so of this group of priority hog targets, another top 5 rated 5-star, again, a 6'4". I'm going to call him a combo guard now because he's getting more and more comfortable playing on the ball as a lead guard, as an initiator in offense. But 3 consecutive double-figure scoring games. He was coming off an 18-point performance against Cameroon. And so Holt puts in this game 13 points, 5 rebounds, a couple of assists, and 4 big steals. So getting it done at both ends, and that's good on Caleb Holt. Brandon McCoy Jr., another a lead guard and another top 5 rated 5-star in this 2026 class. He's a player along with Stokes that have flirted with the idea of maybe reclassifying. So we'll see if anything shifts for either one. For now, the talking points for Stokes is he's going to remain 2026. We'll see if McCoy, if there's any traction there. But he got his most extensive run, 24 minutes McCoy did, Brandon McCoy Jr., out of St. John Bosco High School in LA. 13 points, um, 7 assists, and 4 steals. So a really strong game for Brandon McCoy Jr. Again, Team USA just punished Jordan. Again, the final score there was 140-67. So that's the Team USA part of it. Obviously, coming out of group play and now advancing into the tournament format and the championship bracket, Team USA will be the front runner and projected team to win everything and win that gold medal and probably go undefeated. But we'll see what happens, and they move ahead, as will some other teams. Some interesting one player that we've talked about the last several episodes, and I brought you intel 2 days ago, that Arkansas coaching staff for multiple years, not just since they've been at Arkansas, has been recruiting and pursuing Declan DeRue Jr., a 6'8" forward out of Germany. I've kind of gone through some of his measurables: a 7-foot wingspan, 230 plus pounds. So he's sturdy, solidly built. Class of 2025, Arkansas is familiar with him. And I know for a fact that staff's been recruiting him for, again, multiple years. So this is a guy that would slot in perfectly at 6'8", 230 plus on your front line at the 4 and give Trevor Brazile backup minutes and partner there in that front line, and would be immediately the kind of guy that you earmark and you're not to a bumping from an 8 to 9 man rotation to 8 to 9 man top 2 rotation, and everybody else that's kind of on the back end is still available, but he to me jumps right into that mix. So we've been talking a lot about him and what he brings to the table. That 38.5-inch max vertical leap, 18 years old, will be 19 in January. So 18 and a half years old, if you want to do it like my mom used to do. She couldn't just say your age, you had to add a half or a quarter or, however many days it was after a birthday. Anyway, and I say that in all joy and harmony. I love Mom. That's just how she is, and I love that stuff. It's rubbed off on me apparently. But DeRue with a nice game again yesterday. This guy's been shooting lights out. It's relatively, he's not going out and banging out 20 to 25 points every game out, but he's double figures every game. He's shooting well from 3. He can stretch the floor. It's another thing you like about it when we talk about Arkansas's current team. If you were to really go hard after him and land him, if there's a pathway for that, we can't speak to that just yet. But man, this guy's doing it all. 17 points yesterday. He had for Germany. He was 5 of 8 from the field, and that included 2 of 3 from 3. So he's in this event, he's like 6 of 9 from 3 in 4 games. So it's not a high volume, but he's knocking down the ones he's taken. And he's shooting close to 70% when you look at his overall field goal shooting. Just really having a good event. 5 rebounds, 1 steal and 1 block in 30 minutes, in a 92-83 win over Serbia. So this was a competitive game. He's been a starter. I mentioned yesterday, some of his teammates for Germany are high-level players in the United States. Christian Anderson, who'll be a sophomore at Texas Tech, a player that was a double-figure scorer as a freshman, gave Arkansas some buckets and some, unfortunately, we know how that game ended against T-Tech in the Sweet 16, and the Red Raiders advanced to the Elite 8, where they played Florida in those regional finals. But Christian Anderson's a starter on Team Germany. Eric Reeby, a 7-footer, McDonald's All-American 5-star that's headed to UConn to play for Dan Hurley. So this, again, these teams and some of these matchups are featuring future pros. Declan DeRue Jr., who we're talking about, and just went through his stats, he's already got some mock draft projections for 2026. So NBA mock draft. So there's that. Let's bring up some names we haven't done so far or mentioned so far. And Slovenia's 81-80 win over Argentina, 1-point win. Multiple players that I've been researching since before this FIBA event began, the World Cup began on Saturday, and it's some of the names I've been holding on to just to, have more players to talk about each day. And we'll see if Team USA matches up against any of these guys I'm about to mention coming up at some point. But let's look at a couple of wing players here for both teams, and then I'll go back to Slovenia's roster for a couple of more names. But Mark Padjen, Padjen, a 6'6" wing for Slovenia, 32 minutes, 22 points in this win, this 1-point win. He's a name to keep an eye on moving forward. 5 of 9 from the field, 3 of 6 from 3, and he made all 9 of his free throws for those 22 points, 7 assists, 3 steals, 2 rebounds, and a block. So a big game for Mark Padjen. He has been a standout in this event. He's a name to keep an eye on. And again, as a 6'6" wing, that would definitely be a perimeter shooter and a floor spacer for you if you wanted to add a player like that. And we've talked about and identified how shooting might be an issue, and you'd like to have at least a player where every night he walks into the gym, the scouting reports, I got to account for somebody like that, and how you have to make adjustments and give Arkansas a little versatility offensively if you were to examine a player like this and move forward on him. I know Arkansas's had eyes on him and every name I've mentioned so far internationally, including some other players we've talked about. But Padjen with that big game, and if you envision him on the court, let's say with Carter Knox, when Trevor Brazil's not on the floor. So he would give you wing depth, but you're already pretty deep there. If you only go 8 or 9 in this scenario, you'd be at 9 deep if you added this player in your Arkansas, but you'd be 3 deep now at the wing spot. But if you play 2 wings on the court together in the minutes that Trevor Brazil's off the court, then you could have Knox as your small ball 4, and this guy with good perimeter length and shooting ability on the court together. So I'm not going there to say, okay, this is a guy that Arkansas is definitely trying to add to the roster. If they get to a point where it's a player like this, you try to then envision how will that role look? What would be the personnel groupings you might see? And, how do you make it make sense? Another wing player, and this was for Argentina, Felipe Minzer, Minzer, another name to keep an eye on, another 6'6" wing. He had, in 37 minutes, 26 points in this game. He was 8 of 12 from the field, 4 of 6 from 3, and 6 of 8 at the foul line, 6 assists, 5 rebounds, a couple of steals, and a block. So both players, adding to their stats outside of just the shooting, but both of them getting it done in a 1-point ball game, Slovenia defeating Argentina. And again, the same talking point is how does that work at Arkansas? If Arkansas pursued a player like that, well, you're adding another floor spacer, a shooter on the perimeter. And again, I kind of gave you one example of how that might work on the court with other players, especially ones that are playing and going to get minutes as part of your retention, because you're deep regarding your retention again on the wings, and you've got Isaiah Seeley who can help you at the wing as well. But it still would make sense, again, in my opinion, to add players like Minzer and Padjen, who we just went through. Jumping back to Slovenia, Zach Smrekar, and I'm going to spell this Smrekar, Smrekar. He is a 6'7" combo forward, so can play the wing, can help you in small ball 4 situations. 33 minutes in this game, 14 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. So did a little bit of everything. He's another name to keep an eye on, and again, would be a value for Arkansas in terms of what needs are. Here's a player that has not had, one of my sources says, just keep an eye on him. He could be in play for 2025. He has not had high performance event so far through 4 games at FIBA in this World Cup. But he is a name to keep an eye on, and it doesn't mean that he's just not having a bit of a slump here, unfortunately, during this event. But Vit, V-I-T, Hrabar, Harabar. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation on all these names. A 6'9" forward, so more height, more size. And in the game against Argentina, 18 minutes. And he arguably had his best performance in terms of scoring in this event, but he had 9 points, 4 of 7 from the field. He did hit a 3 out of 4 attempts. 2 assists, only 1 rebound in 18 minutes. So you kind of scratch your head there. 1 steal and 1 block, but another name just to keep an eye on that. So I'll give you 4 names from that particular game. Another player I've really been intrigued by is Youssef Traore, a 6'10", 6'11" forward center from Mali. And then Mali lost to Canada, got thumped by Canada yesterday. But Traore has been a solid player for Mali, and another name to keep an eye on. Potentially, God, we're having a weird sunbeam today, aren't we? This is odd as this comes in. Traore had another solid game for Mali, and he played 37 minutes in this loss, but a big productive game for him. 25 points. Again, 6'10", 6'11". You can't coach that. Active guy. 25 points, 10 of 17 from the field. And he had 9 rebounds and 4 assists, and a couple of blocks and a couple of steals in this performance yesterday. So Youssef Traore, Traore is the last name there. And so those are the updates. So we've got 5 new names they're not new to international play, new to Razorback fans, unless you already have heard of these players or been paying attention to FIBA U19 and a fan of that, watching some of the games. Maybe you're hearing about some of these guys. But these were names I was going into the event, keeping an eye on, and most of these guys have been performing at the level that justifies why we should even be talking about them. You heard some of the stats just yesterday. The only player out of those 5 that I mentioned, Vit Raver, is the only one that's kind of not played up to his potential and ability. But he's a guy that again is class of 20, can slot 2025, and may very well and may likely be heading that way. Again, some of these other players, we'll see if they'll make the jump to 2025. We'll see if they stay in a little longer in Europe and make it 2026. But that's the update today on the FIBA part of it. We're nearly 22 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. Between Team USA and some of the international players, we ran through 10 names today, but 5 of those we've talked about just about daily, and the other 5 are new. So it was a good mix today. I'll have more names. I've got another handful or so to go through as we move ahead, and we'll jump back and revisit some of these guys that continue to stand out. And then we'll try to learn more about Arkansas's involvement with specific players. We've already given you intel on Declan DeRue in that regard. And not only has Arkansas been recruiting for years, they have been at his games. They've been courtside and paying attention to what he's doing out there. So we'll see where this goes. All right, let's move ahead and just do some. I'm going to do some quick hitter stuff before we get out of here. Stuff that I thought might be worthwhile mentioning. Darius Acuff Jr., according to Gary Parrish and CBS Sports, he recently this week put out a list of it's his way too early NBA mock draft for 2026, but he only went as deep as the lottery picks, which is the first 14, 1 through 14. And he had Darius Acuff Jr. projected in at number 8. So I know Hog fans are paying attention to some of these mock drafts. They think, I'd like to see Darius mentioned more as a potential lottery pick. Well, here's one opinion. Again, most people know who Gary Parrish is with CBS Sports, mostly a college basketball analyst, but that's his opinion. And this is a mock draft that, again, for just the lottery picks 1 through 14 that he put out this week, I think a couple of days ago. Speaking of rankings and team rankings, the latest update from ESPN's Jeff Borzello, that's one of their lead college basketball analysts, he updated his top 25 a couple of days ago as well. And we see Arkansas in sort of a similar familiar spot. He's got him preseason ranked number 11th, and that's 3rd in the pecking order of SEC teams, with Florida up there in his top 2 or 3. I think Kentucky he had in the top 10, maybe 9th. I've seen, John Rothstein also in his daily updates of his top 45. He's with CBS Sports as well as Parrish. We just mentioned Borzello with ESPN, but Rothstein continues to have Arkansas also at number 11, but 1 spot ahead of Kentucky, who has it 12th. And so pretty soon, and I may wait until the end of the total limited summer workout, so end of July, end of this month, or right after Arkansas announces that it's going to go on break from the limited summer stuff. I'm probably going to put out an end of summer power rankings for the SEC. I did that last year in September. I'm probably going to do it sooner, either the end of July, early August. So I'm going to really weigh in on how I see this league, one through how many teams is it now? 14, 16. I've lost my mind. I know it continues to expand. It's up to 16 teams. Is that right? Gosh, I'm losing my mind here. Texas and Oklahoma, I think, expanded it to, is it 16? But I'm going to go through all of them, by gosh. We're going to get through all of them. We did this last year. I had Arkansas in the top four. I had them third. I had Florida fourth. And I had Bama and Auburn at the top of the league. And that's pretty much how it played out, except for Arkansas. And then Arkansas made good on its preseason promise at the end. We know that. So we'll see what's in store. I might just have Arkansas number one. Don't be shocked if that happens. But right now, when you look at these national analysts, it's Jeff Brazillo and it's John Rothstein. We know there's some other ones that put out updates, and we'll talk about some of that as we go. And just really quickly, we were really looking forward to Adu Thero, drafted 36, early second round of the Los Angeles Lakers. Here comes the NBA Summer League. The California Classic starts tomorrow, on Saturday. So you had just about 48 hours away from that, and potentially seeing Adu Thero on the Summer League circuit for the Lakers as their top draft pick in this draft. That's not going to happen. It was announced yesterday that he will not play at all in the summer. So not the California Classic, not later in July, mid-July, for a couple of weeks or so, 10 days to 2 weeks, in the big one where all 30 teams are playing in the Las Vegas Summer League. He's not participating. It's the same knee. It's not. This has not been phrased as though he's had a setback. More about precautionary and getting him fully ready. He's expected to be fully ready to go when training camp opens up. That's usually late December or early October as you get into the preseason, and then into those late October, start of the regular season games for the NBA. And so that's not too far out. And this is not surprising to me. You know, when he went to the NBA Draft Combine, he went through the measurables. He didn't do any agility testing. He didn't do any of the 5-on-5 competition. And where he was projected in the draft, typically his level of projection, late first round, early to mid second round, those are some of the guys that were competing. Some of the higher end first round thought to be lock guys didn't, and that's kind of typical. So it wasn't about that. Part of it is Clutch agency, sports group agency that represents him. They modify what their players that are coming up to the draft do at the combine, and they typically try to feature them more in their own pro day where every team comes out and checks them out. And we saw a cut up footage of that pro day, and we saw Adu Thero at the end of it with his shirt off. But he wasn't one of the players when they showed the shooting drills and the different things they were doing with players at that pro day. You didn't see him doing anything in that. And I always wondered, what exactly did that mean? What did that mean in terms of what did he really do out there that day? The last time he played meaningful minutes was against Missouri at home in Bud Walton Arena in February, and it was toward the end of that game with about 6 or 7 minutes ago when he hurt the knee. The University of Arkansas declared it a hyperextended knee. And we had a source that after that announcement came out, right on the heels of that, a source that told me that there was damage, even if it was minimal, to his meniscus, and that he'd be lost for the rest of the season. Well, that was almost true. He got to a point where Arkansas started winning games without him and Boogie Fland, continued to win without him. He was kind of part of the turnaround, but he wasn't part of all of it. Missed the last 4 games, including the end of the Missouri game, then the 2 games Arkansas played in the SEC tournament, and then he missed the first weekend of the NCAA tournament with wins over Kansas and St. John's that advanced Arkansas to the second weekend in the Sweet 16. And I think the talking points at that time were Thero had gotten to a point in his recovery. Now with a meniscus, if you opt to not have the surgery, which we talked about when we brought you that source information, that there's more than one way you can go. You can have a procedure, and your turn time is anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks, and it's about the same if you just rest and don't do anything. Either way, He did see the court against Texas Tech, played 5 minutes in the first half. Wasn't his best basketball. We didn't see him again in the second half. And as far as I know, he hasn't played competitively in any kind of structure, whether it's, I don't know what he did for any workouts for teams, what he was able to show. Is this just precautionary? Obviously, just making sure he's good for the regular season. And they're going to be people that say, well, what does this do? How does this impact him contractually? Or, we don't have an announcement yet that he signed a deal. Look, he was made a promise in terms of what he was going to get where he was picked. I'm sure of that. And there'll be guaranteed money for him. He'll be on the 15-man roster, even if he sees his share of games as a rookie in the G League. That's just how it works now. Even first-round guys, a lot of them, most of them, spend time in the G League at various levels. How many games and how long do you have to do that? More than one season, too. It just happens. Similar draft position for Jalen Williams, 2 spots higher just a few drafts ago. Spent most of his rookie season in the G League, and then Oklahoma City brought him over, and he started a bunch at the end of the season because of injuries on that team. It was basically a 500 team 3 years ago, and I think he started like 32 games at the end of the year, but he spent a lot of time in the G League. He was back in the G League, I think, a little bit, if I'm not mistaken, in year 2. I might be wrong about that. He might have gotten a little run in the G League. I'm not sure, but he certainly spent a lot of time there. It's not unusual. This does not impact that. This is, I think, again, I think Thero will see plenty of G League minutes, but this sitting out doesn't impact him in terms of what the team has planned for him. And so anybody wondering about that, don't worry about it. He's just fine. All right, 32 minutes, over 31 minutes in, approaching 32. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET YouTube Live. I'm Kevin McPherson. This is a situation where if you like the content, please help us out. Hit subscribe, like, and share, because that does help us. If anything breaks, if any big scheduling news comes today, I'm waiting for some of this stuff to continue to come in and drop. I don't know if we'll get it before the holiday weekend or not. I don't know if it's worth jumping back on for a live for, but if it's a player offer or commitment or something that's really significant, we probably will. If not, I still plan on doing a morning segment on 4th of July, Independence Day, holiday. So you might have everything tuned out and not dealing with it. But if not, you can come in and we'll spend a little time tomorrow. And I also will have some updates through the weekend as I continue to monitor this FIBA U19, even though Arkansas, again, heading back to the States in the case of Chuck Martin, there may be some opportunities based on what they've evaluated, what they like, who they like, and we'll have more names for you as well. So there's several reasons, international names, several reasons for us to come back and talk in the next few days. Until then, though, we appreciate you being here. Take care of yourselves. Be good. Have fun this weekend. Be safe. We'll see you soon.